Hello, my name is Mila. Now I would like to present about language acquisition of children. First, language acquisition is the process of human acquire the capacity to perceive, produce, and use words in order to make communication and understand the language itself. This process involves syntax, phonetic, and extensive vocabulary as the deserved capacities. In learning a first language, children can successfully understand information of acquired language without any formal lesson. Meanwhile, Tenson states that crying is the first of children's effort at speech. There are several perceptions by some experts about crying of a baby, which conveys some significant linguistic communication, namely, first, according to romance, crying was the gift of a special spirit. In addition, Vigatenius and even Plato also observed that crying is the first communicative distinction between comfort and discomfort. Crying is only communication, it also a direct precursor to both language or human symbolic communication and speech or spoken language. As a mature baby or infant nature, crying helps the child learns how to produce linguistic sounds, and also crying is the earliest form of utterances that takes a role as a precursor of the speech. Crying initially is completely iconic and symbolic. Iconic refers to direct and transparent link between the intention of communication and the physical sound. For example, the higher a baby becomes, symbolic refers to direct way to show attention of children in order to get what they need rather than in sense of discomfort. Crying is more symbolic when children in the first month or two of the child's development. According to Linguistic Society of America, children acquire language in stage different times, namely, first is cooing. Cooing happens in a 6 months baby, use phonemes from every language. Cooing means making soft gurgling sounds, seemingly to express satisfaction. The example of cooing are ah and oh. The second stage is babbling. Babbling happens when the baby in 9 months old selectively use phonemes from their native language. Babbling means the natural tendency of children to brush out the strings of consonant-vowel syllables cluster. There are two kinds of babbling. The first is marginal babbling, is the similar with cooing where baby produces a few and somewhat random and consonant. The second kind of babbling is canonical babbling. Is babbling when the baby in 8 months old, when their vocalization narrow down to syllables. The example of babbling are da 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 and blah blah blah. One word utterances is the third stage of babies or children's times stage. Here, the age of the baby or children is 12 months. They starting using single word, and here a child tries to convey meaning by using a single word in communicating with others. The example of this stage is the word milk. The next stage is telegraphic speech. In 2 years old children use multi-word utterances that lack in function. It means that children will use word utterances that lack of function in that sentences. The last stage is normal speech. On 5 years, children almost normal development speech like adult. The example of this stage is let's go.
Hello, I'm Laras, and I would like to continue from the first speaker. The next is first word. First word is a child's early language development. A child seems to use idiomorphs often. Idiomorphs is the personalized words that children invent to refer to objects or events in their environment. Children usually use the word that they usually hear in everyday life and easy to manipulate. The example of the word is milk, mama, and cookie. Piaget stated a theory of egocentric speech. Egocentric speech is a form of speech that is observed typically in young children and involves them using speech without addressing anyone in particular, also defined as monologue. And then the next is the birth of grammar. Charles Darwin in 1877 recorded a journal of his children's language acquisition. The word milk has two meanings. The first is exclamation and the second one is question. In exclamation, the word milk has meaning I want milk, and the word question milk has the meaning where is my milk? Milk used as skeletal sentence which forms a more complex sentence. In holoprostic stage or the one-word stage, it occurs when an infant is between 12 until 14 months. Children can produce a small number of isolated single words and many sounds. These words act as illocutionary acts, may assert comments or question. The example of the word is ring, go, yes, and bed. And then transformational generative grammar. It is a generative grammar, especially of a natural language, that involves the use of defined operation called transformations to produce a new sentence from existing ones. The acquisition of TG grammar is the most intensively learned by psycholinguists. People investigating child first language acquisition are inclined to focus on the attempts of children to acquire grammar is because the data is easy to obtain. Roger Brown and his colleague in 1973 published How Children Acquire English Grammar. It is measured by the average number of words occurring per utterance. Children usually start to form a sentence is after holoprostic stage. American Sign Language (ASL) is one of the projects that is popular to teach to animals like chimpanzees due to the anatomical differences between human and simian vocal tracts. Chimps cannot make the sound of human language. Noam Chomsky's experiment is about the contrast utterance by a 2-year-old human child with a chimp named Chomsky. The experiment is like this. A human child produced eat ball, eat doll, eat checker, eat daddy, eat boy, see ball, see doll, see Steve. And a chimp produced eat drink, banana nim, eat nim, nim eat, banana me, nim me, great eat, nim eat, banana me, eat banana. The child displayed a great lexical diversity, 19 items, and the chimp seems confined to a small stock of words, only 7 items. The child displayed very little repetition. The chimp seems to find it impossible to sign a single sentence without referring to either nim or banana. The child shows phrase structure rules, more like words in a sentence, but a chimp more like a list of grocery. In conclusion, even at very young age, before they have any conscious awareness of the difference between parts of speech, such as noun and verbs, young humans very rapidly acquire the notion that words do not combine randomly, but follow a systematic pattern of permissible sequences. But chimps, in the other hand, do not appear to have even an inkling of any pattern or system, but randomly throw signs together in a haphazard fashion.
Hello, my name is Krishna, and now I would like to tell you about innateness theory. Innateness theory, or what's called as nativist theory, is a theory that is stated by Noam Chomsky. This theory states that children have an inborn or innate faculty for language acquisition that is biologically determined. Goodluck in 1991 stated that nativists view language as a fundamental part of human genome which stands as a trait that makes humans human, and its acquisition is a natural part of maturation. From these statements, we can assume that human species has a brain which contains linguistic information at birth, and the predisposition to learn language is triggered by hearing speech. Then, the child's brain is able to interpret what she or he hears. This statement is stated by Linden in 2007. A child has a device called Language Acquisition Device or LAD, which is now replaced by terms Universal Grammar or UG. This device allows the child to acquire language regardless of settings of the language because this device is used as a mechanism for working out the rules of language. Chomsky believed that all human languages share common principles, such as all languages have verbs and nouns, and it was the child's task to establish how the specific language she or he hears is expressed using these principles. For example, if the LAD already contains the concept of verb tense, when the child listens to word forms such as played or walked, the child will form a hypothesis that the past tense verbs are formed by adding the sound at, or it to the base form. Another example is when a child learns plural form. If the LAD already contains the concept, the child will know that to make plural form is only by adding the sound s to the noun. Young, in 2016, also believed that children initially possess an innate understanding or hypothesis about grammar regardless of where they are raised. Chomsky stated that infants acquire grammar because it is a universal property of language. Eric Lenberg in 1964 said that the critical period of language acquisition ends around the age of 12 years. If no language was learned before that age, it could never be learned in a normal and functional sense. This was called critical period hypothesis.
Hi, I'm Komang Natalia Riastini. Now I'm going to explain about childish creativity. In childish creativity, child linguistics environment determines their mother tongue. These are the example. The first is children raised in Seoul, Korea grow speaking Korea. The second is children raised in Bedfordshire, England grow up as native speakers of English. From those examples, we can see that the environment where the child lives can affect their language. Children are creative wordsmiths. It is evidency in the following exchange between a friend and her 2-year-old. This is the example. Daughter, somebody's at the door. Mother, there is nobody at the door. Daughter, there is yes body at the door. Actually, children produce all kinds of expressions like the example above, which they have never or rarely heard in their environment, but which they are attempting on their own to construct or reconstruct their mother tongue. In cognitive processing, it is a type of turning where children seem to be caught in transition between recognizing an irregular verb and yet reluctant to jettison the regular past tense ending that they had got. This is the example of regular past tense endings for irregular verbs. For example, when the child say, "Yesterday we wanted to grandma's." Common at this age are first regular plurals for irregular ones such as mens, nips, and sips. The second is regular past tense endings for irregular verbs such as go, sing, eat. The example of the child that probably overgeneralizing from pattern A and B to form the close but not perfect C that marked with an asterisk to indicate it's ungrammatical. Let's see the pattern A. There is Carlos. The pattern is there is or here's plus noun. Pattern B. There he is. The pattern is there or here pronoun plus is. And the pattern C. There Carlos is. The pattern is there or here plus noun and is. The point of this topic is children are active and creative participants in the acquisition of their mother tongue. In this material or in this topic, we use the theory from Piaget cognitive theory that he said children's language reflects the development of their logical thinking. Besides that, he also said that the first thing children must do to develop language is actively construct their own understanding of the world through their interaction with their environment.
Hi, my name is Karsana and I'm going to present you the stages of linguistic development. The growing discipline of the study of child-first language acquisition has made many researchers examine this issue into their texts, journals, and articles, but it seems difficult to make summary of these theories of child-first language acquisition. The field of study that can be examined in the subdiscipline of developmental psycholinguistics is the area of bilingualism. At the age of 12, children pass a period called critical period, which is the possible age constraints on mother tongue which makes learning might reveal themselves when children turn into teenagers. So basically, the subchapter contains the investigation of what kinds of complex language structure are acquired by elementary school age children. Let us talk about Jean Piaget's cognitive theory first. Jean Piaget's cognitive theory is about the cognitive development of children, including the development of language. Piaget explains that children's thinking is different from adults. They must construct their own understanding of the world through interacting with their environment. They have to understand a concept before they acquire the particular language which expresses that language. Simple ideas are expressed earlier than more complex ones Even the simple one has more grammatically complicated. Piaget's cognitive stated that children's language reflects the development of their logical thinking and reasoning skills in stages. Each of stages involving a different aspect of language acquisition. The first is sensory motor period. This happens to children from born to 2 years. In this period, children are born with action schemas and assimilate information. They talk about who is there and activity of the moment. The second is pre-operational period. This happens to children from age 2 to 7 years. In this period, children develop mental schema and lets them accommodate new words and situations. They can talk about past, future, and also feelings. The third is egocentrism, which involves animism, which allows children to consider everything including inanimate objects. They see things purely from their own perspective. The fourth is operational period, which happens to children from age 7 to 11 and also from 11 to adulthood. This period enables children become mature and logical. They see things from a perspective other than their own. In this period, children's language becomes socialized. The example of Piaget cognitive theory is research conducted by Roger Brown and his colleagues, Edward Klima and Ursula Bellucci. They did an observation to 3 children for years. They then come up with 3 stages of children's language development in terms of linguistic structure. This is the universal stages of children's language development, which any children will pass these 3 stages. There are no children will jump from stage 1 to stage 3 without any example of stage 2. The first is in terms of WH questions. The first stage is the children use WH question with no auxiliary verbs or be verb. The second stage is the children use WH questions with auxiliary verb after subject. And the third is the children use WH questions appropriately with auxiliary verb before subject. The example of children's utterances can be seen in slide. Another example is in terms of children English negatives. The first stage, the children use no at the start of the sentence. The second is the children use no inside the sentence but without auxiliary verb or be verb. The third is the children can produce English negatives appropriately with appropriate abbreviation of auxiliary and be verb. The example can be seen in the slide. Okay, that's all about our group presentation.